This is the Redcat Racing Gen 8 V2, and it's time to compare this rig to some of the others on the trail. Let's check it out. My aim with these rigs is to check out all the big names and to compare them on the same track. So here's what's in the box. Manual, more plastic. Always prefer if it was cardboard rather than plastic, but anyway, we might be able to just lift this out, I think. Yes, there we go. Stickers on the bottom. Now I understand they let you customize this. There are two different designs on the sticker sheet. There's the white lines. This is the International Harvester Scout. One of them has lines around the side, one of them lets you have lines on the bonnet. We shall leave that for the minute. It comes with body posts, which is great because you might want to stick some different bodies on. And just the usual assortment of tools. I think I see an antenna tube in there as well. Let's have a quick look. Alright. We have antenna tube and bind plug. Ooh, that's nice. High level body post, which lets you stick a wagon type body on. There'll be mounting holes, I imagine. A towing hitch, which is actually a really thoughtful inclusion. Alright, let's have a look. I'll show you what I just laughed at. This might be attached. Yes, okay. That is really nice, so smooth. I always like to see uninterrupted lines. That corner, that metal corner is going to be a minor issue. Now that's a 550 17 turn. Let's get this thing open and have a close look at it. So here's the rig. Radio. Redcat branding. The plastic moulding is fairly cheap actually, but it'll do the job. Bind button, you can reverse your steering and throttle channels, steering trim, throttle trim, and your dual rate, which will basically let you set how far the wheel's going to go, and your on-off switch. There'll be a power, it'll be a red power and a green status light, I'm guessing, and in case you're wondering, 4 AA's. So that is the radio. Body posts. As you may be aware, this thing is held on with hook and loop, Velcro branded attachments. But what I was laughing at before was the this is nice rubber. This is the placeholder for the towing clip. It'll pull out the side. You know, this is just like on my real car. That's pretty cool. I'm getting distracted by the shiny things here. So that is a little Redcat logo. Don't know if you can see that. So this for example, it's GPM branded. The tow hitch sits below. So when you're driving, that can catch and drag on the ground. What I like about this bumper is that the tow hitch sits up nice and high. So also in this bag is LED brackets and screws so that you can install the LEDs into the front and rear. It's got twin LED holes for the front and for the rear as well. It's 3 5mm light bucket holes. So that's interesting. So that's part of what makes this a trail truck, but I am interested in what makes this a crawler. So we'll start with the tyres. They are really, really nice. I use super swampers on a lot of my cars, and I've had several brands. RC-4 Drive does one, Proline has the Indico iRock swampers. There are aftermarket knockoffs as well that have Super Swamper. These are reminiscent of the RC-4 drive in that they've got grooves inside the rubber, and the tread is more directional than on some of the other swampers, but they are going to be pretty nice, I think. Nice and soft. I think I'd actually want slightly firmer foams in the rear, but the front feels pretty much right. Incidentally, while I've got this thing upside down, the links are just really nice and thick. I like that there's a metal plate on the end of the diffs, and the it's fairly standard C-channel chassis is, well, it's certainly sturdy. I quite appreciate the base plate here too. It's just lovely and smooth. There's no protruding gear holder anymore. These removable, are they removable? Yes, they are. These look great on the body. Swivelly mirrors that are actually reflective. The sticker's not on straight, but that's alright. Check it out. That's cool. They are chromed plastic. That's okay too. And the bumper can take LEDs if you were so inclined. Now I can't wait to have a look under here. The Velcro is on the wheel wells, I think. I could read the instructions. One day I might read the instructions. That day is not today. Always disappoints me to see an antenna. It's actually worth using this if it fits under the body, and I think it will. One good reason, if you're going to submarine this thing, the action for this kind of antenna system happens in the last inch or so, the last 3 centimeters. So the rest of this is really an extension cable, generally speaking. This part here, that is where the reception matters. So once water is higher than that, if you're really submarining it, 2.4 gig won't penetrate the water like the old AM radios. It's an interesting little ESC. It's got the standard jumpers. I should wear my glasses for this, but I'm guessing, I can't quite read it, but it's going to be a drag brake setting and a LiPo cutoff setting. I'll do my best for you. Okay, so it comes with the LiPo cutoff already set, and there are 3 drag brake settings, 100%, 50%, and if you remove the jumper, no drag brake. I see a 3 amp 6 volt BEC. 3 amps reasonable, assuming that's continuous and not peak. Unfortunately for BECs, and I don't know about this one yet, the quoted current, which is in amps, is often the peak, and so usually you have to halve that. This could actually be just a 1.5 amp BEC, continuous. But having said that, even with this 25 kilo steering servo and running lights, you're not going to exhaust that except in really stiff crawling when you're trying to steer against a rock and the motor's unable to run. But this is quite reasonable. You get 2 straps too, that's nice for the battery. It's not a bad location for the battery. I love on the TRX-4 that you get a little battery tray at the front, in front of the servo. That's so brilliant for crawling, but this central spot is really the next best location. The motor is separated from the transfer case by a shaft. So there's your transfer case there. I guessed that before I said that, but it looked like it. So the drive comes from the gearbox to the transfer case, and it comes out from the middle here. One trick that the BRX-01 has, which I wish more did, is that the outdrive for the rear spins in the opposite direction to the outdrive for the front, which helps eliminate torque twist. Having said that, we've got portals here which will definitely help on that. At a glance, the bottom gear on the portals is much bigger than the top one, so if you ever do a portal delete on these axles, your wheel speed is going to be much higher. It's a 17 turn 550 motor, I think. One benefit of the 550 is that you get more torque. A 17-turn 550 is going to give you similar torque to a 30-turn 540. I'm generalizing, and it will give you similar power to a mid-20 turn 540, I guess. It'll use marginally more power, and it'll have marginally, well, not more than marginally, it'll have a slower response time. So if you jam the throttle on, a 540 25 turn, let's say, will kick in, it'll try and spin up faster than the 550 because you have greater rotating mass in the 550 because the armature's heavier, there's more copper on it, and it's a longer rod. So it's very slightly slower, it uses very slightly more power, but that's the trade-off for having more torque and more power from the one motor, and a 550 is the way to go. Brushless changes everything, but if you're going to have a brushed system, I think of a 17 or maybe even a mid-20s turn 550 is probably a good choice for this. I've never seen this combination before, but I'm guessing that the ESC is going to actually get pretty hot if you're running this thing hard. And one thing you could do would be to swap this motor out for a Holmes Hobbies Trailmaster 27 turn. There's a 21 turn that's more commonly available, even that will help. The higher the turns you go, the greater your torque will be to a point, the lower your power will be, and the lower your speed will be. But the big plus is you're going to get longer runtime on a higher turn brush motor, less heat, so longer runtime, and it'll give the ESC an easier time. I suspect, I don't know, but it's as a hex fly. It says it's rated for 2 to 3S LiPo. I really should have done my homework before this video, I'm sorry. I'm going to guess it's a 60 amp. It could be a 40. It'll be a 40 or a 60. You wouldn't want to go any lower than a 17 turn. It'll draw too much current. I'm looking on this angle and you can't see that, but the panhard rod is curved. It's really nice. So one thing that's nice to look at too is the action. That is cool. That is really cool. Let me compare something for you. It's in pieces at the moment, but I just wanted to compare some older tech for you. This is a Vetera Ascender, and it's in the process of changing at the moment, but the panhard rod on this guy is straight. Now this is technology from 2018, 2017 even, I think these were released. They're stock springs too. With the traditional panhard setup, the side that has the higher hinge gets full range of movement, but the side with the rod tends to draw the other side across, and it's never quite as nice an action. Compare that to a modern panhard assembly. So again, this is the better side because the panhard rod on that is on this side. So this side has the full movement. This side's usually the movement that's not as nice. And it does draw the other side in, but gee, it's nice and smooth. Now, just a little tip, if you haven't had a crawler before, oh look, it's not sitting in its boot properly from factory. Let's see here. Oh no, problem solved. I was going to say, sometimes you hear a ticking noise as the shock cycles, and sometimes just rotating the spring a little can help clear that, but there's no such problem here. The oil in these is pretty nice. Now the oil, let's have a feel of this. Now I'm thinking about this rig from a point of view of crawling. I would preload these shocks, I'm assuming they're adjustable. Yes, okay, so to preload a spring, if you haven't done this before, you get an adjustment, and by rolling that stopper down, you're compressing the spring somewhat. And I haven't driven this yet, but I'm going to do a stock shootout between this the SCX-10 which is sitting up here behind me, a comp rig that I've built just for competitions, and a TRX-4 Sport, and why not, the aged Venture SBK, we'll do that too, the HPI Venture. Now what I've done by preloading the springs now, I'll turn it how it was. So I've preloaded the rear. Before, it was squatting down on both ends. Now you see it's not squatting down on the rear. We've stiffened that up. This is a quick hack, okay? It's not the same as replacing the springs with something stiffer, which can be called for. You've got oil in here as well, which the thicker the oil, the lower the viscosity, the slower it will cycle. You don't actually need thick oil here, and it might be almost too thick, but what you do want is slightly firmer spring in the rear, so that when you're trying to climb something and it squats down, it doesn't squat down too much. Because how it was before, it would squat down before you do anything with the motor. The rear was the same as the front, it would just squat down too much. Now, on this angle, it still will squat. Well, let's make it more realistic. Okay. It hardly squats at all now, and that's just with. I've just preloaded it to the height of the wheel wells, basically. Just that, I promise you, will make a significant difference for when you're crawling on the rocks. Leave the front nice and soft. That's fine. It's completely fine. You want that to cycle as much as possible. I also think these wheels are towed out too much. So your toe angle for your steering, toe in or toe out, it's towed out too much, and I can see there's an adjustment nut there. Some toolkits will come with a little spanner. This one didn't. So what we're going to do is I'm going to wrap some paper. This is a review, I promise, but you're getting the Craig style review here, which is fiddle with it as soon as you get it. I'm using paper so I don't scratch the nice link, and I'm just going to, I hope this is visible, sorry if it's not. What I want to do is draw it in, is shorten the length of the link, which will draw in the left wheel. It's better. So before it was more like that, and now it's not straight, but a little bit of toe out's good actually, but not much. So that's fine. Now it looks like there's some slop in the steering, but actually it's slop in the servo. What I'm doing now is just trying to feel, yeah, it's actually slop in the servo itself. It's a Hexfly HDX 3225. Look, it's an RTR model. It's not hugely expensive, so we can't be too picky. And I do get a bit spoiled because I'm used to using my competition level stuff, where you don't want slop at all. You want it just to point exactly where you aim it and nowhere else. That's enough for looking at it. There's a nice waterproof receiver box. I think we should charge a battery. I don't use these, I use the XT60s, but I've got adapters I've made for these, or I might chop it. In any case, let's get this thing on the rocks, and I'll put it through its paces, and I think we might use the same course that we did the comparison on the other day for the TRX versus the Pro Sport model. And we shall see how. Well, that's nice. We shall see how this thing stacks up. Oh, one last thing. This is the last time I'll have this open in front of you on camera in any detail. There are some divots. I thought I could see divots. They fit my thumb. If you're going to replace this with magnets, I dare say you want rare earth 26, maybe 25 mil. 25 mil by I don't want to give you a bum, Steve, hang on. It appears to be 20 mil. Let's just make sure of that. Yeah, okay, so rare earth, 20 mil discs. Get a set, rare earth magnets are pretty strong. I've got small ones here, but if you buy, these are teeny tiny ones, but if you buy bigger coin ones, say 2 mil thickness, 20 mil, and you want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So get like a 10 pack of 20 mil by 2 mil neodymium rare earth magnets, and you can replace this hook and loop system with magnets, and I bet that'll be really good. So that's the Redcat Racing International Scout Body Gen 8 V2 in green. It's pretty. I'm looking forward to getting this thing on the trails. So let's do it. So there it is. Thanks for joining me for my first look at the Redcat Racing Gen 8 V2. This was my first look, made some small corrections and optimizations out of the box, and you got to hear my thoughts on the body and a few other bits and pieces. Before I took it down to the track, I changed the power connector to an XT60. You can find that video below. Stay tuned for part 2, which I will include as part of the shootout driven against the modded TRX-4 Bronco and the Pro competition rig. The link for that's below as well. And then finally for part 3, which will be my trail review and final thoughts on this very promising rig. I can't wait to see how it performs. I'll see you there. Please be sure to leave a like if you found this video useful. Also be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time on RC-TNT.